Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of I Call Top Bunk podcast. I am your host, Fluff. Once again, I will be without my lovely co-host, Hans Hesberg, as he is on the other side of the state. But today's guest is a very special one and one that I have wanted on the show since its inception. He was one of the first guys that I thought, you know what? We should talk to him. That is Kevin Diers, KISW radio host here in Seattle. The man is a carnivore for all things music related, and I think what makes him unique is he likes everything, and that translates to what he pushes professionally. We're going to talk to him about his career, his love of music, and try to pin him down on the number of shows that he thinks he may have seen, because I think it's pretty high. He's literally been to every show in the Seattle area for like the last 20 years. So without further ado, here's Kevin Diers from KISW. Are you ready?
Yeah.
You sure?
I think so.
You're representing seveul different bands today, Mr.
Is that okay?
No.
I'm basically logoed out, dude.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of I Call Top Bunk podcast. I am here with the incomparable Kevin Diers. So I was going to say from KSW, you do so much more than that, and I feel like that's kind of limiting, and you've done so much, which is the reason why I wanted you on this show.
Yeah.
I am such a huge fan of your passion.
Thank you.
For music, both local and not local, but I actually went back and kind of looked at the breadth. So I knew you initially when you were on KGRG.
Yes.
But before we dive into all of that, I want to know where your passion for music in general comes from. Was when you were young, was there a TV show? Was there a movie? Was there an album that you went, I want to do something with that? Like for me, it was like Look Who's Talking and hearing the Beach Boys. I Get Around, the vocal stack for the first time, blew my actual mind when I was like 6 years old.
Wow.
And for me, that was just like a huge moment of like, I just became self-aware of music. You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of times our parents play their own stuff and you're not really paying attention. And then all of a sudden you start paying attention to the stuff that you like.
I mean, I was a radio kid, you know, and like talking about radio musically, my first favorite like band. So I came from a Christian household. My mom, we grew up in the church, and so I would get access to like bands that were like edgy for being Christian, like MXPX, right?
DC Talk.
Like so like you would go to these concerts, but they would have these like CDs you could buy with compilations. We know them as compilations. We're that old that we know what a CD compilation is, right?
Yeah.
And so you would go to like a Christian bookstore, and then you'd find out about these punk bands, and then sometimes you would see that they're liking other bands, and then that 20 plus years you find out that there's a direct correlation between me liking Deicide to like MXPX, right? It's just this weird long line, but it's like you connect the things, like went from this to this to this. But so as far as like music, it was MXPX and No Doubt were my first favorite groups. I wore my first band t-shirt was a No Doubt t-shirt from Target, and I wore that like every day of like 5th or 6th grade.
Do you currently own a No Doubt shirt?
I have that shirt.
You do?
I will not get rid of that shirt.
We'll talk about your shirt collection in just a second. But so you were not, were you being limited by were you not allowed to listen to certain things? Because No Doubt seems pretty mainstream compared to what
it was
MXPX
the radio.
was.
It was either the CDs my mom let me buy, or the radio. And my radio station was 107.7 The End.
Of course, Marco Collins.
Marco Collins, that was my guy. Marco Collins and Adam Green and I
thought about reaching out to Marco to be on this show.
You should.
He follows me on Instagram.
He would be great. He'd be a great
And
guy.
I chickened out. I couldn't. Dude, he was responsible.
You're doing it, Marco.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Marco. But Young and Restless, right?
Yeah.
Like that was
the show.
That was the show of hey, there's this new band called Bush. I'm going to bring them over in the United States, and they played their first show in like Seattle.
Yeah.
Like that shit
he
was
broke
crazy.
Weezer,
Yes,
and
he
I
did.
don't know,
Foo Fighters.
I don't know and I learned about this stuff, but I most recently found out about the way that KISW had broken bands in the past. And so there was a DJ named Steve Slayton.
Yes.
So
my father was a huge fan and listened to
Steve Slayton. So
and Bob
he
Rivers.
broke AC/DC in the United States.
I did
there
not
was
know that.
a 45 at Fred Meyer, and he used to just go through the import bins. And this is the late Kathy Faulkner. She's not passed away. That was her name, the late Kathy Faulkner, because she was a late night host. Good friend of mine. She's told me all this lore of KSW.
Wow.
So he broke, in at least North America by going through these import 45s, and that's AC/DC, and that's why you'll see T-shirts or you'll see on stage him wearing a rock KSW shirt. Also with Iron Maiden, all these DJs. I'm not trying to say that they 100% broke, but for radio,
they started the domino effect.
They started exactly
right?
in America, right? So they would go out and they would scour the import bins, back when you just play whatever during middays or nights or whatever. And they found these rare import 45s and paid a little bit of extra cash for the import and broke them on radio.
I had no
great
idea.
AC/DC, dude.
What?
Yeah. So these legends, man, of local radio.
And then in the 90s, KISW in particular had Bob Rivers, Bob Scratch.
And Spike.
And Spike. And they would have Grunt Truck on live. They would have Soundgarden on,
Melvins,
which you can still hear some of this stuff. I'm sure your guys' archive is just bonkers, but we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
When we changed studios about 7-8 years ago or something, I got to go through and just take whatever vinyl I wanted and just there were control boards they were just giving away.
Bro.
And they were just the reel-to-reels of Kurt Cobain live in studio, Jawbreaker. I actually because it was Marco interviewing Jawbreaker, a reel-to-reel, I sent that to him. I mailed it to him. But just so much cool stuff, as many CDs as you would want, because we digitized everything and mostly, didn't really have the vinyl collection. But so I got a bunch of cool stuff. Man, so radio, but
radio was always there for you.
Radio was always there for me. And when I lived in Kent, that's so I was born in the East Coast, but my parents were in the Coast Guard. I pretty much grew up in Kent. We moved to Seattle. My dad was on a icebreaker for the Coast Guard.
Whoa.
So he would go to Antarctica. He would go all over the world for these huge missions. And
he'd be gone for weeks.
He'd be gone for months.
Months. Wow.
Yeah, most of the year. Maybe 2/3 of the year he'd be gone. So we lived on military housing out in Kent, and I could get the signal we discovered, and this was when my mind really expanded, when we figured out the signal for KGRG. When we went to a certain area in Kent, and you could tune in, and you could scan it, and because my childhood best friend Kenny was a huge hip hop head, and there was a show called Ear to the Street with DJ Crush, and so he would hear the underground hip hop. I would listen in the morning, hear all the ska and punk I wanted. It was our station, and so we would just buy 10 packs of tapes. We would just tape everything,
recording the radio.
Yep,
dude.
and that was it was a classic thing. You don't want to stop the tape, you want to pause the tape. See, because you don't have the hard stop on the tape, you want to pause it, so it's a little bit more for all the kids listening.
All the kids listening are going, "What are they talking about?"
But this is how you do it.
That's right.
But yeah, so I just had and that's when.
So this is the mid '90s.
Yeah, late 90s ish, and they would have all request Friday, and I would call in with my requests, and just. That's kind of from a primordial ooze state of learning about radio, and I didn't have any other. I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go and be a KGRG DJ at Green River Community College. It's just all I really wanted to do, and I did it. That was my dream.
So, for those of you who are listening or watching this at home, if I had to describe KGRG, I would describe them as one of the more influential college radio stations, especially what they were doing in the 80s and the 90s, particularly the 80s, late 80s. They were one of the first stations to ever have Nirvana up, and Nirvana used to do shows
for Lindblom Student Center.
That's right. That was my first experience being in a radio station at all. That my band, all in all, was asked at the time to go and play and we played with, I think, Squelch and
Yep.
some other 90s Formula One bands and all that kind of stuff. But they were extremely influential in the college circuit. There was a lot of influential college radios all over the country playing stuff like, Breaking REM and bands like that, and Husker Du and all those kinds of things. But
we weren't college music. We were,
No.
it wasn't like, the like Husker Du's and stuff. This was like Pennywise in heavy rotation.
Well,
This
that was
like
that was
pop
the unique
punk.
thing about KGRG is they
Yeah.
were playing a lot of the West Coast punk rock.
Yeah, and ska.
Yes, and
Ska was in regular rotation. It was crazy.
that was my first. So it was KGRG playing something off the first Thrice record that got me into Thrice. It was on the radio, and my girlfriend at the time was like, "Hey, I think you probably like this. It's called Phoenix Ignition. Check this out."
Yeah,
I was
man.
like, what is this?"
I saw Thrice. They played for it was with AFI, Himsa, Thrice, and No Motive at the Showbox. And it was $10. Or no, it was like $12. And yeah, it was AFI right after Art of Drowning came out. That was a great tour. And that was the first time I ever saw Pettibone sing for Himsa. We got a lot of local lore on this one,
We do. I want to get. I want to get Pettibone on here as well.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
He is the mayor of Seattle, man.
Absolutely, he is. So you're going through. Are you just going to? When do you start going to shows on your own? When does that happen?
I go to shows at a place called Club Impact, and that ties into growing up in a religious household. And it wasn't like super strict or anything, but it was we went to church and stuff, and my mom tried to kind of let you show me. Anyways, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It wasn't
yeah.
like it wasn't like a super strict thing, but went to church all the time. And Club Impact was a venue down in Tacoma. It was over by the original place, and you probably went there before.
I never went to the original one.
It was down by the Tacoma Dome, and it would be a Christian. It was almost like one of those church basements where they let you have shows, but it was its own thing, and they would like pray before the shows. But they weren't like you have to be a Christian band to play here. There would be a lot of Christian bands that played there, but then like bands like
They were pretty inclusive.
Five Good Reasons played there, Champion played there, a bunch of hardcore bands played there.
Was it the same location? Was it later called Club Adrian?
I don't
Right
know,
off the
actually.
right at Tacoma Mall.
No,
exit?
that was a different venue.
Okay, it was in the basement of the church.
Yeah, that Club Adrian, I went there
Okay.
too. I saw a lot of fights at that place. Yeah,
Insane.
weird.
Yeah.
It was like metalcore shows with fights at a church.
So weird.
Weird.
Yeah,
Weird
yeah.
vibes.
Okay, I never went to the original Club
But
Impact.
that's where my mom would, drive me, and sweet as she was, I would be like, drop me off around the block, Mom. You can't see it. Drop me off around the block. I want to make it look like I walked here.
That's amazing.
And then she would probably either, hang out in Tacoma on a Tuesday night, reading a book or knitting, and then pick me back up, or go home to Kent and then pick me back up.
the Paradox a different location?
Paradox was in Seattle, yeah.
Okay, that was in Seattle. So when I was in 10th grade, this would have been 1996-ish, I remember getting fired. We would get fired for a lot of the Tooth and Nail bands.
Yep.
And I later worked for Tooth and Nail, which is relevant to this conversation about the Christian-based music stuff.
Yeah.
It was early MXPX 90-pound wuss shows.
Okay, yeah.
Little yellow flyers. And it seemed like they had a show every weekend somewhere in Washington.
Jeff Betker, Jeff Suffering from 90 Pound Wuss, he then became the booker of Paradox, which was also religious affiliation up in the U District, Mars Hill Church, which then became pretty notorious. There's actually an incredible podcast called The Rise and Fall of Mars Hill. That's a whole different story.
Yes.
Look at that podcast. Or listen to that podcast. But I would go to shows up at Paradox, and that was really cool venue. They would have, if you look at some early Paradox flyers, they had like early ISIS shows, Neurosis, like Throwdown would play at big shows there.
What?
Yeah. So, it was just like these spaces that the church would like sort of fund, but then like turn their head, and you could do weird, cool underground stuff there as long as you didn't like ruffle too many feathers.
That was kind of a moment in time, wasn't it?
Yeah, because of the teen dance ordinance.
Right. Oh, that of course.
Because the religious affiliation allowed them to then have, their this center, because where teens and adults could then congregate and dance together because it was tied to a church.
So for those of you who don't know local Pacific Northwest history, most of the clubs basically were shut down for various reasons.
It was like Footloose.
It was literally like Footloose around
Yeah,
here in the
yeah.
late 90s.
And
Unless it was a big commercial venue, right? So
Yeah.
unless you're playing the Paramount
yeah, and they could afford the insurance.
and they
all
could
that
afford the
stuff.
insurance,
Yeah.
right? But all the local smaller mom and pop venues that a lot of high school local bands used to play every weekend, Auburn's Best Annex.
Yep.
Shout out to Grady, who actually lives right by me. They all got shut down literally overnight.
And that's why you see the rise of, if you look back and you do your history lesson and you look back at like old Modest Mouse flyers, you'll be like, why are they playing in Redmond? It's because outside of Seattle Ordnance, there was incredible art spaces like Redmond Firehouse. There was the Ground Zero in Bellevue, where people like Kate Becker would go and they would have these amazing centers outside of Seattle, which had this kind of restrictive thing where you couldn't really have these all ages shows unless you could afford a ton of insurance. So they would have them out at Redmond, and there's also an amazing podcast about the teen dance ordinance called Let the Kids Dance.
I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, it's great.
Wow. Okay. So you are in the thick of it at a pretty young age. How old were you at this time?
15, 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you are going to shows, you're just consuming. Do you have any particular are you developing interest? Because from my point of view now, and the conversations that we have had over the 10 years I've actually known you for real, you don't discriminate on music. You like anything that is legitimately good, whether that is hip hop, metal, pop, whatever. You're pretty fearless in that way. Where does that come in? Are you focusing on a particular brand of shows or music back then at this time?
Early it was like a lot of pop punk, but and that kind of style of things, ska, pop punk and whatnot. I would go to see some metal and hardcore shows, but then I got really into hardcore, like really into underground, straight edge hardcore. I was straight edge hardcore for a while, you know what I mean? Like around college and
So this is what, early 2000s now?
Yep, early 2000s, and just very into that scene. I would go to a lot of different types of shows, but that was mostly what I was into. And then hardcore, metal, punk, it was always kind of the louder stuff. Yeah,
more aggressive stuff. This is also probably the time period where you meet the love of my life, Ashley.
Absolutely. Probably at Club Impact.
Probably at Club Impact, right? Because that was also where she was allowed to go.
Yep.
Because her mom is still very religious to this day.
Absolutely.
And
did she used to volunteer there?
I'm pretty sure she did.
Okay. I think that may be where I met her, like giving out tickets or whatever at the front. So
yeah.
We were all just kids, watching the MXPX clones. They weren't MXPX.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of them.
Yeah, oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, there were so many of them. They really, I don't know, because they didn't, I have to be very careful how I word this because I love MXPX. They didn't reinvent the wheel, but they had their own brand of the wheel. And what they were doing was so unique to them, but they obviously didn't invent punk rock. They'd be the first to tell you that. But what they were doing was kind of in parallel to, like I've always considered like Newfound Glory to be one of like the first bands that were like, wait a second, this is like really catchy, but kind of heavy, but there's the sing-songy. Why would we call this pop punk?
Yeah.
It was MXPX in my mind and Newfound Glory around the same time period as well. They were purveyors of that new sound at that time. There were so many clones.
I remember when Newfound Glory put out this record, All Downhill From Here.
Yeah.
And there was a MTV News with Kurt Loder. And he's like, the new Newfound Glory album is set to come out. And the first song has influences from Chain of Strength and early 80s hardcore. And it was just like, what is going on? And they were just like, the Youth Crew hardcore influence on Newfound Glory is coming out. I'm just like, all these things are not supposed to come together on MTV News.
No. And then it's only later, like as the internet kind of grows, that you learn like, Chad's background.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Shai
Hulud.
Oh, dude, yeah. All those hardcore Madball.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I saw a band on Warped Tour and they played at like noon or 1. It was called Hazen Street. You ever hear Hazen Street?
Oh my God.
They played at
Toby.
Warped Tour. Yeah, it was Toby
from H2O.
It was Hoya from Madball. It was dudes from
Yeah.
like hard ass bands doing like a pop punk
That's
band,
right.
and they were on a major label, and I think it probably had something to do with Chad putting them on. But like it was just super funny. It was like this super group of New York hardcore playing at noon on Warped Tour. I was just like, what is going on here?
What a
But
weird time.
yeah.
Anything went.
Oh yeah, man.
So when you graduate high school, you now are going to college, you start
At
going
Green
to college,
River, yeah.
and you're like, okay, I'm going to go to Green River. Do you immediately have your sights set on doing anything in the radio space on KGRG?
Oh yeah, that's why I went there.
Yeah, of course.
That was just like it was just like, okay, sign up for Radio 101 with Tom. And you know, it's just you got to go in and you have to you go in and you sign up for like a training shift, and then you become like a news reader. So you pop on once.
And this is the workflow of how this worked
Yeah,
for anybody?
Yeah, the program has changed a lot now.
Sure.
I'm not sure exactly how it's structured, but it was just like you train, you learn how to run a board, you do a training shift, and you go to these classes, and then you do like a news shift, where you just read the news during someone else's show.
Was everyone starting out really late at night? Like all the new people?
Yep.
That's okay, I remember that.
Yep. And then once you've done a training shift, then you can get an overnight, and you would be on from like 2 to 6. And this is just like during the week. So like you would have to go to classes the next day, right? Or so you would do a 2 to 6, and this is all CDs, you know, there was no radio automation at that time. Yeah, so I would do that, and I grinded, and I did a regular shift for quite a while. And in 2004, I mean, I'm skipping ahead a little bit,
that's
but
fine.
about a year in 2004 summer, I I pitched, and you to get a specialty show, which is the shows at night usually that kind of specialize in one program. It's in the name, specialty show.
Yeah.
Like for instance, Metal Shop on KISW is a specialty show. You have to pitch it. You have to come up with a whole, you know, proof of concept. And I pitched a show called Dead Air. I had about
Yes.
probably 10. Yeah, it's wild. I had about like 10 hardcore CDs, but like, you know, fake it till you make it. And
You had 10 CDs.
probably, you know, like 10 or 12 like comp CDs, like, oh, I've got like, you know, 100 songs worth of hardcore. So I would borrow like tons of friends' CDs, you know.
Okay,
at
so that was
point.
going to be my question: is if it's a specialty show, you have to source your own material.
Oh yeah. And so I would email labels like, hey, can you send me some CDs? And they would.
That's brilliant.
It was
Of course they
amazing.
would.
Because they'd be like, oh, cool, there's someone who's actually playing our stuff on college radio. And so I would get like care packages from Bridge 9, Death Wish, these smaller labels that were like, what? Okay, cool. I'll just send you, you know, whatever we have, you know, stamped out, you know, promo copies. And that was like Christmas, dude. Going during the promo CD era. And later I got to be music director at KGRG. Every Tuesday, you just go down to the mail bin, and it would just be like crates of the coolest CDs, and you just be like, what's this? What's this? What's this? And you would just get stacks and stacks and stacks of CDs. It was, I mean, now you get CDs and records once in a while, but it's mostly downloads, which is fine. It's a privilege to get anything, right?
So, and this would have been all basically exclusively stuff that was about to come out, or stuff that was just brand new stuff.
Yeah, brand new stuff or coming out in a couple weeks.
Okay.
And so Dead Air, I did it by myself for a couple months. Had an intern, and then Ian came on. Ian Reese. He came on, and he started out as, I think, as he was training on KGRG, and then we did Dead Air for quite a while.
And how does that work if you have your specialty show? It's kind of off the ground. You were doing it. Is that pitched to you as like, hey, you could get another guy in here, or
No,
or
it was
were
kind
you
of up
like
to me. Like
Okay.
it was like every quarter you get the new crop of students. You just
okay,
go,
you seem cool.
yeah, kind of. And then, you know, you bring someone on as a newsreader or as an intern, and they would just click or they wouldn't click, right? And you would go into the class and be like, hey, you know, we have this show. If you want to come help out, you know, you can get credit doing so and so. X amount of hours, you know, per week, just helping out. And it clicked, and it was great. And then that show, we did it for, well, so 2004. I actually took a sabbatical because I went up to Western Washington University, and I got my bachelor's up there. So for 2.5 years, I went up and did radio up at Cugs in Bellingham, which is
Okay.
their student station.
Okay.
And I had a show, which was very much like Dead Air, but I called it Dance Floor Justice. So it was a hardcore radio show called Dance Floor Justice, which is a song by a band called Project X, Dance Floor Justice, and it is about beating up the drunk in the pit. So I had a specialty show
amazing.
in a college town where people were getting drunk, and the song was a theme about beating up drunks in the straight edge hardcore pit. So I did that, and then I came back down, and we were doing Dead Air until. I mean, the thing is we were doing the show until like 2010, and then, as we'll get into, we started doing a show called Metal Shop.
That's right.
And we gave the show to our intern. And the thing that, and there's been a lot of really, really cool things that I've gotten to do that had the privilege of interviewing these legends. But I will say the one thing that I'm the most proud of is that I created a show in 2004. And this past summer, the current host of Dead Air put on 20 years of Dead Air Hardcore Radio Festival down in Auburn. The show has lived on well past my time and is now a current thing that's not looking back on a legend. It's staying current with up and coming young bands. It is forward thinking. It's underground ready. He does it on Spotify now. It's not in a station. He's going to actually start doing it at a station down in Tacoma, but he's brought it on himself. He does it, puts out all his own content. His name's Trevor. Okay. And, he's like the longest running host of Dead Air at this point.
That's
so
amazing.
I creating your own thing and then being like, all right, let's we'll give it to the next person and see how long it goes. And the fact that it's been 20 years and
is that
it's so cool.
Can you now with the perspective of time, can you actually look at that as kind of just an outside looking in, or do you still have a little bit of that ownership of creation, much like an album, right?
Yeah.
A band putting out an album. Once you put it out into the world, it's going to do what it's going to do. Like, you have no control over what it's going to do now, but like, you are responsible for Dead Air, which is still going.
Yes. I mean, there's a ownership and was like this pride of it, but like at the same time, it was when he put on the festival, I went in and he would come up to me and be like, hey, is it cool if we give this t-shirt to, and I'm like, dude, it's your show. Like, you paid for these t-shirts to get printed, like, and so it's like, he still like consults with me about like what I would, and I'm like, dude, like,
he owns that now.
It's yours, man. Yeah.
Wow. You're now you are now Tommy Lee Jones in Old Country for No Men.
Yes.
Like, oh man, I think the world's passing me by. Like, like
I'm the OG.
You are the OG, right?
It's like, damn, dude.
That's fantastic. So, take me through the process of how Metal Shop starts with KISW.
Yeah.
And how that kind of just keeps growing and how you keep growing into that role and more.
So it's actually like a mind-blowing story from me even thinking back, because I don't think that this particularly story will ever happen again. Just in how much magic it was, and it really brings me back to a special time. So 2010, I'm working as a busboy at Dust, or no, not Dusty Strand. I'm working at a busboy at a place called Daily Grill, just generic restaurant downtown, and I'm doing KGRG. So just doing that. We're not getting paid. It's college radio. You just volunteer station.
That's once a week, right?
Yep, once a week.
Yep.
So and I was writing a little bit for The Stranger. Doing some freelance writing, and this was right at the and kind of like this was 2009, 2010. We were still feeling the effects of the recession.
Yeah. And
it was really like, so I graduate college with a degree in print journalism and an emphasis on radio and that's 2008, right into the recession. And I just went, I'm going to bust tables for a while. Yeah. And I did. And I grinded and I kind of ate shit for a while. Sorry for my language, but I kind of ate.
You can say fuck if you want.
All right. Well, you did. So I kind of ate shit for a little while and just did that. And KISW Metal Shop. So Metal Shop is, from what I understand, the longest running metal specialty show on commercial radio, if not on radio, period. It started, Steve Slayton started it back in probably the early 80s, I think, or maybe even before. And Kathy Faulkner hosted it. Rockfish hosted it. The first radio show to ever have Alice in Chains play like a song. So it's just like, it's like this institution. And so me and my friend used to get high and listen to Metal Shop all the time. It was just, and Steve and Kevin used to host it, who used to do a show on KGRG called Eternal Nightmares. And so there was this like, if you graduate from KGRG, maybe you'll have a chance of going to KSW. So they hosted for 8 years. They hosted Metal Shop, and Adam Gerke, who does the Fox
weather,
he used to
traffic. Yes,
yep, he used to host Metal Shop in the 90s.
What?
And, yep. Yeah, there's pictures of him with long ass hair with Iron Maiden, dude, incredible. Gerke hosted Metal Shop.
Okay, we got to get him on here.
And Metal Shop was always like, they would get, kind of hard. Like it would be like Pantera, Cannibal Corpse here and there. But when Kevin and Steve, the first song they ever played was Phobophile by Cryptopsy. So they immediately they immediately just like set the bar for how extreme this is going to be, right? So they have an incredible specialty show for 8 years. They do the thing. And then in 2010, Steve Rock announce on KSW that they're going to be stepping down, and it's not like they're quitting on the spot. It's like, we want to find the next host of Metal Shop. And so it becomes this search, an official search, and they post it on the Facebook, and there's commercials for it. Send in a demo, send in your playlist.
Yeah.
And so we had been doing radio, and so we put together a demo at KGRG in the studio, the production studio there, and there's like 150 applicants. And we get a call to go do an interview. And so we do an interview, it's me and Ian.
Yep.
And we do an interview, and apparently they must have liked us, because about a week after that, we get called to do a live on-air tryout. This is on Metal Shop, on KISW. And so it's us, another team, and another guy, and the callers call in, and they can just be like, oh, this guy was good, these guys played too much of this, too much of that. And so it's just this lot, and it was just like, holy shit, dude, this is all on the line.
Yeah.
This is crazy. And they were going to announce the winners the next week. And so we're at my house, we're smoking and drinking, and just like, all right. And so they call us, and they say, and we're live on the air, hey, man, I just want to let you know, we had to call the losers. You didn't get the show. What? And like my heart sank, just like, what? And there was like this pause, and they go, just kidding, you're the new host. Holy shit. And so I live on Broadway, like right off Broadway on Capitol Hill. And I like stage dived on my couch. I ran outside, and I just screamed, fuck yeah, as loud as I could.
You would.
The new host of Metal Shop. And so that was 2010. And
what is the transition like? Are you immediately like, hey?
I'll get to that.
Okay.
So it's like, take promo pictures, all this different stuff. We come in, we get acquainted with the station. And then the next week, we're the hosts with like someone training us on the board and how to officially do that. And then like a week later, or a week or two later, we're on stage at WAMU Theater introducing Slayer. It was like Wayne's World, dude. What? It was insane. And it was just like, whoa, dude. And so we're these like, stoner kids hosting a hardcore.
What has happened?
Yeah. And so it truly was like a Wayne's World. And one of the guys from the Auburn Reporter newspaper came up and did a story on us. I'm like, local guys make it big on Seattle radio. It's like, it was amazing. It was truly something special. And radio has changed a lot.
It has
in the past 15 years. But KISW has such a passionate local fan base, and it's an institution that Metal Shop has been able to stick around. The pandemic was rough, but I'm able. I was just on air last night, doing Metal Shop. So, and I do Loud and Local too. So that's another thing that I got to do. And so,
I want to get to that.
Yeah.
After the Metal Shop come down, because holy hell.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So when you go to leave KGRG, obviously you're like, okay, well, I can't do both. And
and
obviously I would assume that now this is an actual job. This is a paycheck. Like you can quit your job busting tables, maybe a little bit, or no?
Actually, I think by that point, I'm pretty sure I was working at least part-time, if not full-time, at Silver Platters record store. So I was,
Sick.
I was actually working at the Bellevue store for a while, and then I started working at the Northgate store, which was an amazing. That was the best
That
record
was
store.
that was the best one, dude.
It's now, I will say, a special shout out to the crew at the Linwood Silver Platters crew, because excuse me, I just burped on mic. So with the Northgate store was in the direct line of the light rail.
Yeah.
So they, I think they got paid a lot of money by this city to relocate, and now the entire vibe, the whole crew from the Northgate store is in Linwood.
I did not know that.
And it's a good vibe, man. So the Linwood Silver Platters is my go-to. If I ever want to go to Silver Platters, I go to the Linwood one. And you could actually take the light rail up there now. But that being said, I was working at Silver Platters in Bellevue, and so I was able to do, I wasn't making a ton of money, but I was able to do a specialty music radio show on KISW and work at a record store. It was like the coolest thing for your early 20s. That was the best.
Walking into the door and seeing the sign and like,
and then being able to talk to, that was something special. And I didn't really realize how important it was until I left Silver Platters, of being able to network with local musicians and local bands, being the guy at the counter selling them metal CDs, and then being like, oh, you do metal shop, let's, talk, and then just making those connections,
right.
I mean, that was like almost, I think it was probably pre-Instagram, so you really had to like actually sometimes talk to human beings.
I was going to say, talk to people, right?
Yeah.
The connections and the reach that you were instantly granted by being a part of the KISW fold, was your brain instantly training of, oh dude, these bands are coming to town, like how does that work? Or as the radio station, do you get like a schedule ahead of time, like, oh, these guys are going to be on tour, like do you want to go out and hang out, or like how does that work? Which way does it go? Are you going, hey, can I get into that show?
It took us a little while to really kind of get the scope of how not easy, but like how manageable you could actually like interview these legends, right? Because you were in the big rock station of this market. I remember the first Mayhem festival we went to as host of Metal Shop. We didn't really do any interviews because we just didn't really realize you should be doing this prep. We weren't,
right.
It took us a while to get pro,
of course,
to kind of work into that role. And by the next year, we had a whole day's worth of rundown of all the bands and we had a pro camera and the flip cam,
but still, but at that time though, right? So you had a
content.
space to do it.
Yeah, we had
right?
it, and we had the media pats and the media kit, but it took us a little while to get pro. But yes, there would be opportunities like, and it wasn't like, it was very standoff as far as like, they would give us opportunities and they wouldn't say like, you have to do this. They would say, hey, do you want to interview Mastodon?
These guys are available.
Hey, do you want to interview do you want to interview Slipknot, or say this thing, hey, what do you think? And most of the time it's always yes. That's one thing I will say is people have in the past been like, oh, does KISW have any input of like what you play on Metal Shop? And like, absolutely not. There was the program director at the time, Dave Richards, who hired me and Ian. He originally was like, as long as it sounds like Cookie Monsters and the fans love it, he's like, it's not really my style, but as far if you're serving the community and it's what the fans want and it makes sense and you're playing good variety of stuff, just do your thing. And if it's not my boss telling me to play Slipknot, it's either the listeners or it's me to play Slipknot. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing is Metal Shop. It's not the Kevin Diers show. It's not everything I want to hear. It's
definitely not.
Everyone gets requests. Everyone gets this show's bigger than me. This show's an institution. This show should represent the scope of metal music. And if I'm there, metal music, and I'm kind of going to go off on a little tangent here, but if I'm 39 years old, if there's kids making music that doesn't make sense to me and I'm a gatekeeper and it's getting like some hype around it and it's really like say like deathcore, right? Or whatever,
sure.
Whatever's the new shit that people love, right? and I'm like, no, we're not going to play that, then I'm not doing the job. I'm not doing the right job, because that's representative. It should be representative of what's current coming up in the underground of metal. And, you're not doing a good job if you're not representing what's going on with the culture and what's young kids
Yeah.
making interesting, forward-thinking music.
So as time goes on, have you found yourself more so now than before thinking, well, it's not my thing, but I'll play it?
Yeah, sometimes there are.
Because I can't help but think, like, when you're younger, and obviously you want the most extreme, that needle is, that goalpost is always changing
Yeah.
as time goes on, and just naturally as humans, you're not going to be into the latest stuff. Maybe you are. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, I'm generalizing here. But as music listeners, we always have a sweet spot on what we like and what we don't like, right? But like the fact that you're even conscious of that is pretty incredible. Did you always have that mindset, even with Dead Air? Okay.
No,
I mean, were just playing stuff that you liked, and it was
with Dead Air
loose.
college radio, it's way more niche, right?
Okay,
And it's more, specialized and stuff. But like when you go to a station like KISW, and it's, first off, it's important to I never try to insult a band or dunk on a band or make fun of a band, because you never want to make someone feel lesser than for liking something they like. Who gives a shit, right? They like a band that maybe I don't like that band. You're wearing their t-shirt, but like, how high school is it to be like, that band sucks, and you're on this bully pulpit where you can really, you can make someone feel bad for something. And like, why use that power to crap on something when you can uplift something?
I have always said in my world with the gear stuff, I don't ever want to be on my deathbed and think, I'm so glad I said that thing sucked 20 years ago.
Right.
Like, I want to spend my time talking about shit that I love
Yeah.
and stuff that's cool and uplifting, right?
My friend said something online. He said, "Stop talking about stuff you think sucks. Start thinking about stuff you think that fucks."
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So you have Metal Shop. At what point do you start turning your focus back to local bands and the local scene? Because you always have, actually, you know what? I'm going to go off on a tangent, or we can go down a rabbit hole. I would argue that you have probably been to more live shows in the Northwest than probably anybody currently living today.
Wow. Maybe Mike Savoya is different. Maybe Iron Mike.
Oh, that's probably a close contender.
And he's also a little older than I am too. Yeah.
Number of bands seen?
That's good. I go to a lot
would
of
say
shows.
you're probably in the top 5.
I'm going to like 3 or 4 this week. So
that's what I'm saying. Do you take me? I get tired just thinking about that.
yeah. Do I get tired? Yes, I do.
Okay. Okay. It is your job.
Yeah.
But you are such a music lover. I see there is never a time where I don't see you at a show that I'm attending. And where does that drive come from? Going out, getting ready, trying to figure out how you're going to get there, what time you get home, because you probably have stuff to do the next day. Like,
Well, I'll let you
where
in
does
on
that
a
drive come from?
It's just, at this point, it's just, I mean, I skip shows a lot, because I'm just like, I wanna relax and have dinner, or I have other things, or I have to do a radio show that night. It's just more often than not, I end up going to the shows. And I will put you on a little hack. It's called leaving when you want to. And
I'm on that hack,
yes,
brother.
dude, exactly. And like, that's something that I realized is that early on is like, I can't if I leave at the point where I'm having an incredible time and I'm like starting to fade, I'm just like, I'll have a good memory of this show, instead of staying past that time and then being like, man, I stayed too long, I'm tired. And it speaks from an area of privilege where we realize that we get access to a lot of these different shows. There's always going to be another show to go to.
Yep.
And if it wasn't like me saying I'm going to go to 3 shows this week, I'd probably stay till the end for most of them. But you got to, it's a marathon with these kind of,
Pace
what I mean?
yourself.
Exactly. Pace yourself, a marathon, not a race. When you're kind of in the industry of going to shows and, you have a lot of stuff on your calendar, you see the bands you want to see, and you stick around for a few songs if you want, but you don't have to stick around the whole time if you don't want to.
For me, I think I grew up playing in hardcore punk bands around Auburn and Federal Way and all that kind
If
of
you don't
stuff.
stay till the end of the show, you're an asshole.
That's right. There was that thing though of
Yeah.
like you have to you're not supporting unless you stay for the whole damn
Yeah.
thing. And for
And you ain't
me,
getting paid unless you stay for the whole damn thing.
right. So
If you get paid at all.
So when Ash and I go, she also comes from the hardcore scene.
Yeah.
You got to stay and support your homies. It's like, well, yeah, but I'm also have been a touring musician for a lot of years, and I know they don't want to fucking talk to me after they get done playing an hour and a half set. They want to relax, take a shower, and then, sit on the phone with their wife or whatever. They don't. So when it's
Watch
showtime,
Netflix or something.
it's now my time.
Yeah.
Because I can leave whenever I want. So that's a great point of leaving on the high, because also that core memory is now a great
I had a great
one.
time. Yeah, exactly.
I had a great time. I left when I wanted to. I also got to beat traffic, and I'm not mad about that.
Oh yeah, man. I pulled last couple shows, big shows I went to was Metallica. And you went to the Metallica, and me and Ryan Castle from KISW, my boss, also on air on KISW.
Yeah. Shout out to Ryan Castle, one of the guys that put us on my old band Rest Repose, played the Elysian Brewery
For Men's Room Red Fest. Yeah.
for the Men's Room Red Fest, and he was so over the top nice to us, and he did not have to be. We were nobody,
Yeah.
and he was so courteous and gracious and nice to us.
He and I were in the snake pit for the last night. It was
my
amazing.
God.
Yeah, we got in the snake pit. So we were like, we stayed till the end, dude. We stayed till the end, and we paid for it in the Uber cost, and the and the ride. We walked to KISW, still took an Uber from there, but yeah. So, and then Slipknot at White River. That was a once in a lifetime set list, because it was all the OG shit. And, and I love that Corey. Were you at that show?
I was out of town.
Okay.
My Ashley and my daughter were there.
That's amazing.
I got them in.
So Corey's like, for fans that are casual Slipknot fans, this might not be your night, because this is for the OG Slipknot fans that have been forever. We're only going to play songs from 1999 and earlier. So it was just this like, I'm never going to hear these songs played. So we left, with everyone, and at White River, you pay for it.
Yeah.
On a Saturday night at White River, you're in that parking lot for a couple hours. So
Can you talk about what it's like? So in line with having access to bands, both early in the career and later in the career, I would love to get your thoughts and insights of bands. Like, I remember seeing you interview Ghost.
Oh, that's
like
one.
They were a teeny tiny nobody band playing Elko to 300 people.
Yep, they opened for Enslaved, who are like a
Yes.
legendary black metal band from Norway. But they were their first, and everyone that pretends they're too cult for Ghost, remember, the first Ghost American performance was at Maryland Death Festival, and all of the Patch Jean Jacket people were so stoked. So try not to pretend like you're too cool for Ghost, because they are an awesome band and have been doing it their own way for a very long time. But that tangent aside, we got to interview Ghost at El Corazon, and I think they were on Metal Blade at that time, and it was their first U.S. tour, and they had, it wasn't quite what it is today, but they were still, the pageantry was there, and they had the unnamed ghouls, and Papa was there.
The OG costumes as well. Right?
And so, and so we get asked to do this like special VIP meet and greet for some listeners. And so they won tickets, and we go up to the green room in El Corazon. And I'll a little spectacle, stomp on the spectacle here. The green room of El Corazon is not that like nice. It's fine. It's just a room. He's like, no, it's not. It's
not fine.
It's
a shithole. It's red wood rooms, two or three of them, with the worst bathroom you've ever seen in your life. Also, the place is haunted upstairs.
Exactly. And so it's perfect that we go up to this haunted room, and we just go into this dark room, and it's these creepy ghouls with hoods on, and a man with skeleton makeup, and Mike Savoy is like taking pictures of all of us, and we're just like, and then, flash forward, so many years, and now it's awesome to see, that band. And we got to do several things with them throughout the years.
Yeah.
We got to host like a special in-store performance with them doing a acoustic performance at Silver Platters. They played at KISW, a special acoustic show.
Whoa.
So yeah, it's really pretty cool, man.
This is a segue, and I'm not. I'm telling his story as it was told to me.
Yeah.
But the other guy who does stuff out of this space, Mike Squires.
Yeah.
He actually met him when he was in Duff McKagan's Loaded.
Yep.
In a European festival. So when they played their first show in Seattle, he told me this story about how they had nowhere to stay, and so he goes, "Oh, I'm a single guy sitting in an apartment. You can stay at my apartment." And like these fucking half dressed, because they kind of came in like their costumes, but like their hats were off and their hoods were off, obviously. But like they all show up at his apartment in Seattle.
Yep.
And then like they all crash on his floor and his couch. Then he spent the
Amazing.
next day driving him around, showing him around Seattle.
And they went into like Mopop, but they didn't have their costumes on, so nobody knew who they were.
Yeah.
Like, wait, who are you? Oh, we're Ghost. Oh, okay, cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure you are.
Sure you are,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Are there any other bands that you look back and go like, I was there at the start of their ramp? Like Knock Loose or anything like that? Or
Dragged Under.
Okay. No, I will say though, I mean, because that all started with the previous band, Rest Repose. You were the first guy outside of our friends group that was like, "Hey, man, do you have a CD I could play on the air?" And we were like, "What the hell?" And then you had us in, a couple of times.
That was awesome,
like,
man.
Like you were the first guy to actually show us any respect around here. It was awesome. That
man.
was really a landmark thing that you did for us as a whole. That meant a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, that was awesome, man. And it just to see the rise of all of that. And that was something that I mean, you helped me realize the reach of YouTube. How crazy, like how cool it was to see this band that I really believed in the songs, Rest Repose. I thought the music, I loved the music, but just how you can immediately reach your fans just by being this, you would say, I don't know, I guess there's some people would put like a negative term, content creator. Some people will be like, content. I mean, that's what we all are, right? Content creators.
It's all about the content.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So like, being a personality that people really connect with, how important that is, and how awesome it was to have that direct line. Like you guys did a lot with not being on a label.
We did
doing
nothing.
It directly.
Yeah, well, yeah, we had nothing, and we put out that first EP. Jared and I did.
Didn't it make Billboard?
And yeah, it charted like a number 15 on Billboard.
It's crazy.
What we didn't know though is like no one puts out music in December, so we had no competition.
Okay. But still,
yeah. But then we put out the EP, and then it did well enough where we all of a sudden got this $3,500 check from DistroKid based on streams that we had, which was enough to buy our first van. So okay, well let's go on tour, and like it just kept going, and that turned into Dragged Under. And
was there any, and this is me flipping the interview question back on you. Okay. Was there any pushback from like the industry of like, they can't do this?
So, I mean, that was
they're not allowed to do this.
That was kind of a big reason why Rest Repose just kind of ceased to exist, is because we kept running into all these old school promoters and booking agents going, "You're just stupid YouTube guys. Like, what are you doing a band? You can't do that.
Yeah.
You're either in a band or you're on YouTube. You can't do both." We're just like, "What are you talking about? We just sold the show out."
Yeah, it doesn't matter how we got here.
And then we sell the show out, and they go, "Oh man, it'd be really cool if you guys came back." Dude, we played the show in, I think it was in Ohio, and it was this weird venue where it was this real narrow, it was like 200 cap club. There was the bar, and then they had a second room, which was like a 800 cap club.
Wow.
KSW pulls up right behind us, and they're playing in the big room. And I think Agnostic Front was on the bill. Old guys with this black spray painted school bus walk out, and right. 4 people showed up to that show, and we packed it out, and there was overspill
into the big room. Yeah,
into the big room, and the promoter was like, "I was wrong, and I am sorry. Here's extra bonus money. You just saved our night from just going totally under. Like,
that's
thank
amazing.
you so much." Yeah, so like that happened over and over again with that band, but it was always an uphill struggle, man.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really, really tough.
Bands that saw from the beginning, I would say a band called Metallica. I was there at the beat. No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
you were there in 81.
I will say, and it's not metal, it's more so loud and local territory. But the band called the Home Team.
John was just on the podcast last week.
Yes, they're a band that, and it's not like they're as big as Ghost or something, but they're
Oh, they're
crushing
getting
it,
there.
dude. They're doing really well.
Yes, they are.
And John was an intern on Metal Shop. He was,
Forgot, yeah.
yeah, he was an intern on Metal Shop. He was, and them being like, we're gonna start this pop punk band, and me and just being like, good luck with that. Pop punk's over. Just like, and they. I don't know. I wasn't on those tours, but they kind of ate shit for a long time,
We toured with
and
them several times.
they grinded, right?
Oh,
And
they ate shit for 10 years.
yeah, and they stuck to it, and they switched up their sound and not because of any trend, but how they wanted to, right?
That's right.
And they just kind of leaned into what they wanted to do, and it just so happens that that extra sense of creativity and doing whatever they wanted just happened to be the thing that made them pop, right?
That's right.
And
That's
the
right.
word pop, maybe be a little bit more pop. Be a little bit, pop it up a little bit because that's what they want to do. And
Yeah.
at this point, Home Team, I listen to it. It's not, you call it pop punk. It's more pop than punk.
Oh, yeah, they totally
It's not
ditched
really
the pop
pop.
punk
It's
thing.
just pop. It's just pop music, and that's cool. I like it. It's like
heavy
pop rock.
pop.
Yeah, it's like heavy pop
With
rock.
8-string
Yeah.
guitars. Like, it's
Exactly.
so good. And I want those guys to just rule the world. Avoid's another band that got
yeah.
out of town.
Avoid the Void, dude. Remember
Dude,
when
they were also on the podcast.
They were one of the openers on Studio 7 shows forever.
Yes. Literally every opening
Yep.
slot was them
Yep.
eating shit as kids.
Yep.
I don't know, man. I just think I think more bands need to just go eat shit.
I mean, they were, like I said, the local opener for all these metalcore tours, and they were Avoid the Void, and we kind of laugh at the name, like, that's a funny name, but like, they stuck to it, and they grinded, and they just don't quit, and you make connections, and then you kind of feed into those connections, and you just see where it takes you, and
Yeah, dude.
doesn't happen for everyone, but for the ones that it does, and they stick to it, you can't help but have like a little sense of pride, like, they're really putting. And another one is Aaron Jones, man. Is that guy?
Just saw him at the Hendrix Experience thing that I went to. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I remember when he was busking in Pike Place.
He was doing he got some local buzz, and he was really crushing it locally at Crocodile. He would do these sold out shows.
Yeah.
And then, fast forward however many years, and he's opening for the Rolling Stones in France, and it's just like, that's so cool, man.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty bonkers. All because the weird thing for me is, like, music has always been like, truncated, of course. If I play the right chords, I can go to the world and play to thousands of people. If I just play these right combinations of chords, and do the right moves through, that's so bonkers. Kevin, what is next for you? What does the future hold? More shows?
Yeah. So with radio, with Metal Shop and Loud and Local, I just, these things, I would love to be looked at as like the steward of these institutions,
I think you are.
because those shows are, like I said, radio's changed a lot, but I think that there's still a very important place for those two programs. On my own time, I work for a company called Defy Wrestling. And they're the best Northwest wrestling company. We just had a show, super packed show this past weekend. And I do a lot of their content creation, and I do their social media. I've been with them for like 7 years now. I host a podcast for them. And yeah, man,
You're busy.
Yeah, I am busy, dude. I'm just now starting to realize that I am so I'm going on 9 years sobriety.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I am not free of addiction, though, because I'm a work addict. I'm a workaholic.
Brother, same.
Exactly. So
when's the last time you had a vacation? An actual not doing anything?
about a
vacation?
year, probably.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm going to Japan for 2 weeks in end of October. So
that's exciting.
But my girlfriend is the best with vacation, because she's like, we're doing this. and it's like
Bless
it's a
her.
great balance
Bless
because
her.
it's like, but with the radio shows and stuff, there's so much you have to work ahead. Like you have to pre-record programs and
sure.
be like, it's so there's a lot that like week leading up to is like really intense, with like you know, working ahead. But it's important to unplug like that, and that's what I've kind of realized. But so I think that a lot is I'm trying to balance and trying to have a little bit more space to enjoy life a little
Okay.
bit more and stuff, and enjoy the shows I'm going out to, and maybe take some more time for myself. But
Japanese wrestling events?
oh, I'm going, dude. I'm
Okay,
going
that's
to
good.
Japan. Yeah, and the record shopping in Japan. Have you been to Japan?
I have.
Okay,
Been
the
to
record
Tokyo.
shopping is
Downtown Tokyo.
amazing. Did you guys play there?
No. I was
Okay.
hired to do some YouTube stuff by eBay
Oh, that's
in
so cool.
2018. They're
Oh,
like,
wow.
can we pay you to come over here for a week? I was like, you can, yes.
That's
Yes, you
amazing.
can.
Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah. Dude, thank you so much for coming on and
Hey,
hanging out.
thank
you
you,
for your
man.
time.
I appreciate it.
You are you doing a show today?
Yes, I am. I'm going to be on the radio tonight, so
Dude, it never stops.
never stops, man.
Dude, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. All applicable links to all things Kevin down below in the description if you're watching the video, and then will also be in the show notes as well. Kevin Diers, thank you.
Thank you, Fluff.
Bye, kids.